Nate Foy on that for us. Nate, thanks. John?
You got it.
Sandra, for more on this, let's bring in Republican Massachusetts State Senator Ryan Fattman. So let's go to what illegal immigration has done to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Since 2021, there's been 50,000 new arrivals. The total there in the state is 355,000 illegal and inadmissible migrants. 10,000 of them are children who have arrived since 2021. 8,500 of those children are unaccompanied minors. I mean, it's a huge financial burden on the state. And you and your GOP colleagues are now saying, show us where the money is going, because we know it's being spent.
Absolutely. And John and Sandra, thank you for having us on and highlighting this issue. It's a big deal in Massachusetts. Over $1 billion spent of hardworking taxpayer money where they get no benefit. They're being displaced. As you just mentioned, the school children potentially getting kicked off buses. We've had homeless veterans removed from shelters, and the parents of children that are suffering because they have opportunities being taken away from them. We have spent $1.4 billion to date, and the government is projecting another $1 billion for the next fiscal year. And quite frankly, there needs to be more transparency and accountability.
So the GOP chairwoman for Massachusetts GOP, Amy Carnival, said that, quote, "We stand with the Massachusetts Press Corps in declaring enough is enough. The public deserves transparency. Release the details on the vendors profiting from this crisis and the public safety issues affecting our communities. On behalf of Massachusetts residents, we are demanding accountability." She has put in a Freedom of Information Act request for the data. Why do you think Governor Healy doesn't want this out?
Oh, that's a question I'd love to know the answer to. What do we have to hide? Are we enriching people at the taxpayers' expense? Perhaps. Maybe that's why we don't want to release the money. But it's $1 billion this year, $1 billion next year, $1 billion the year after that. And just from a public safety standpoint, we have public safety incidents and emergencies playing out that are affecting our residents in their backyards. Back in March, there was a 26-year-old Haitian migrant who raped a 15-year-old. And, you know, that's one of the incidences that the public has been made aware of. But there are hundreds of public safety incidents that have occurred in our state. And this is a program, we're the only state in the nation that has a right to shelter law. Some municipalities across the country do, and they've said, we can't take anymore. Massachusetts needs to not just have transparency and accountability, we have to have residency requirements. We need to prioritize our own residents to make sure that those who have lived here, worked here, built businesses here, raised children here, had families here, that they get priority, not people from South America or South Dakota or anywhere in between. We need to take care of Massachusetts first.
You know, we were just looking at pictures on the screen beside you there of migrants living at Logan Airport, where they were allowed to stay up until the end of June, when the state decided that, no, they couldn't stay there any longer. And what an inconvenience it is to people who are trying to use the airport to get from here to there. You mentioned a moment ago buses. That brings us to the matter of the town of Stoughton. Put out a memo to all parents, I think it was last week, saying, oh, sorry, we don't have slots for 150 high school students because the number of our buses was reduced from 14 to 13, but we have to have 2 dedicated buses for migrants, so I'm sorry you can't have a spot for your student on the bus this year in high school. Now, apparently they have since remedied that, but you can imagine being a parent there in Stoughton saying, what? You've got buses for migrants, but you can't get my kid, who is a citizen of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to school? What's that all about?
Yeah, and I'm the parent of 4 children who are lovely and wonderful, and it's just not fair to them to have that taken away from them when their parents are working hard and trying to make ends meet in Massachusetts, and yet another rug pulled out from underneath them, a taxpayer-funded benefit that they don't get to take advantage of. And you mentioned, John, you know, these people who have come into Logan Airport were kicked out. Well, they've moved to our train stations now. So they're hanging out at our public transports in tents, And, you know, if we're going to be humane, that's really not a humane way to treat anybody.
No.
Massachusetts needs to reform this law and not send the message that we should have more people coming. And back in December, we signaled to the world, you know, just come to Massachusetts and get access to SNAP and welfare benefits. We made people who are legally present in our state eligible for our supplemental nutrition, giving them access to debit cards where they can pull cash out and spend wherever they'd like, including outside of our state. It's an insult to Massachusetts taxpayers, and there needs to be more accountability. The reason why we need more transparency is so that public can demand more answers, more results. And if we don't do it, we have this provision in Massachusetts that allows us to go to the ballot and put a ballot question on and reform our laws. Maybe we take direct democracy to the people.
All right, we'll see if that happens. Just to close out this segment, I just want to put out the national cost of illegal immigration. This was put together by the Federation for American Immigration Reform. On a yearly basis, the total national expenditures for illegal immigration are over $182 billion. They get about $31 billion back in total tax contributions from illegal migrants who are working in this country. But the total burden yearly on taxpayers is $150 billion. That is no small piece of change. Ryan Fattman, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
You know, and there are so many other concerns as well, Sandra. We mentioned some of them at the top. The school district in Hamul, California, where 2 times migrants tried to get on school buses carrying young people.